All right, hi, I'm Mathilde.
I'm Allie, and for our final APES project, we really wanted to go back into the community and make a difference, starting with the children. We really wanted to share our knowledge with parts of our community that might not know as much as we know.
Exactly. So we chose to reach out to my old elementary school teacher, specifically my 5th grade teacher, Miss Day. And so I emailed her back and forth, and we got to set up a time for when we would come in and maybe do a short presentation and activity to our class to just engage the kids on something that we learned in class so that we can share our knowledge with them.
So we emailed back and forth with her for about a week, and we really brainstormed what would be a good lesson that would relate what we've been learning in APES and what they've been learning in their 5th grade science classroom. So we came up with a lot of good ideas, emailed back and forth with Miss Day, and finally decided that we would go and teach about native plants.
So this kind of builds off what they were previously learning, because she explained to us that their previous unit had been on ecosystem restoration, and they had just gone the week prior on a field trip to, I believe, Ravenna's Creek or the Ravenna's area to go learn about different plants and ecosystem restoration. And part of that, they were learning about native plants. So she really was, she liked our idea of teaching the kids more about native plants and kind of sharing so that they could have more of an in-depth knowledge that really directly built off what they were already doing.
And this just perfectly correlated with our idea of going into the community and inspiring positive change. So we went in there to really teach these kids a little more about native plants, but also have them make seed spheres that they could then plant native plants in their communities and homes, thus making a difference in our own community.
Exactly. So I think today what we kind of just want to do is walk you through the presentation that we showed to the kids, to the class, and then show some pictures from the activity, because I think that was really important and the kids really ended up loving that. And then just share the impact that we had. We have a few numbers on what went well and what didn't went well, and so we'll reflect a little bit on that at the end. So
Right.
yeah.
So here's the presentation that we showed the kids.
So we started off just by showing them native plants. We did a little intro, and then immediately we really wanted to engage the kids. So we asked 3 questions. So these 3 questions are: what do you think native plants are? Why are they important? And are you able to name any native plants that are native to Washington? And so we let the kids discuss for about 5 minutes, and then we called on them to answer questions.
You could tell that they really enjoyed spreading their knowledge. They were really enjoying engaging with each other, and then when we called on them answering our questions about this, they already knew quite a bit, and you could tell they were already very passionate about the subject. And just to encourage them further, we gave them candy for each person that answered, and there were so many hands up at a time. It was really nice to see.
Yeah. Going back to the reflection part on what we could have done better in this specific situation, we asked 3 questions right at the beginning, and then while the presentation was less than 10 minutes, we could tell that the kids were getting a little bit antsy, which is totally normal. They're 5th graders, so it makes complete sense. But what we could have done is we could have split the questions better through, or spread them out better through the presentation by putting maybe one at the beginning, one in the middle, and then one closer to the end, just to engage them throughout the presentation.
I think we weren't anticipating this much participation with the kids, because the kids just really, really wanted to participate and be a part of the conversation. So Next time we would have wanted to add more of that throughout the presentation, because you could tell that's what really got them engaged.
Yeah, so we did try to keep the presentation short. So we explained a little bit about what native plants are, and we gave some short definitions just so that the kids, to answer the previous questions, just in case their explanation wasn't fully in-depth enough for what we wanted them to take out of the presentation. So do you want to?
Sure. So we really tried to keep it really simple and short so that they would at least understand it a bit better. So we wrote, native plants are the species that are naturally found or naturally occur in your region. Native plants promote the biodiversity of an area and are important to the ecosystem and habitat regulators. One example, native plants provide nectar for pollinators, including hummingbirds, native bees, butterflies, moths, and bats.
Yeah, so again, just a short explanation, and providing an example just so that we can really show them. And then there are explanations. So what we did here is we, again, showed why they were important. So this is kind of answering the second question. So the first question we asked was, what are native plants? So then we gave a short definition. And then why are they important? So this slide kind of answers that. So we split it up mainly into 4 categories. 1, they're low maintenance. 2, wildlife support. 3, ecosystem services. And 4, culture.
These are the 4 topics that we've been learning about, like regulating services, different provisioning services, but we really just split it up into 4 very simple terms. We didn't use the complex words that we use in APES. For example, we just talked about how the native plants have adapted to the area and thus they're regulating the soil and the water and all the circular things. They're also providing for the animals and organisms and pollinators throughout the area. They're also providing for humans in different ways. They're providing, whether it be like habitat for us, lumber, clean air, all of that, and just the cultural value. So we just discussed all of that in simple, kid-friendly terms that directly related to the different topics that we learned about in APES this year.
Exactly. And then moving on to, which was partially the last question and the last main part of our presentation, was some native plants. So we asked the kids what native plants that they already knew. So they gave us some really great answers, and not all the ones that they gave us were wildflowers, which I thought was really amazing. So they really had like a depth of knowledge on some native plants in the area. Because we were planting seed spheres that contained pretty much solely native wildflowers, we wanted to just tell them a little bit about what they were going to be planting and teach them a little bit about what's going into the balls that they're planting, or the spheres. So we chose baby blue eyes, yellow lupine, California poppy, and Oregon sunshine. So I wanted to choose ones partially with names that I thought they would find kind of like interesting, like California poppy or Oregon sunshine, just things that I thought may engage them and that they may think are cool. But then also these were the main ingredients in the wildflower mix that we provided. So we provided little pictures just so that they could see what it may look like at the end. And then moving on to the next slide, we just gave brief descriptions of what these plants do and why they're important.
Yeah, so we really just really engaging them with these little pictures, we showed how these plants are going to help benefit their community, whether it's going to be providing for pollinators or birds or habitats or bees or I don't know. We really showed the value of each of the different flowers that we were planting, so they would know how they can watch it impact their community.
Exactly. So some of these say like support pollinators and then give a few examples, or baby blue eyes, for example, is low maintenance, so that's one thing that it adds to the area. And butterflies and bees use baby blue eyes for nectar, so that's one thing. So again, it was just giving like a brief depth of knowledge on what these plants were and why they're important. And then we went on to creating the seed spheres. So this was the main part of what we did with the kids, and this was the actual activity of taking them outside, getting them situated, and actually doing the craft. So we just gave them a little like debrief of what we were going to be doing, and then we moved on to kind of explaining the ingredients. One thing that I think went really well was we put the ingredients and the instructions on the slide here, but we also printed out little sheets so that each group, there were about 6 groups, I want to say.
6 groups, yeah.
6 groups. And so they each had a little sheet with instructions. So because this was inside and then we moved the activity outside, they can't remember all of this. We can't even remember all this. So it was really helpful to the kids that then they all engaged with the group. They each picked out one thing for each member to do. So that was really cute. They were just like very collaborative and working together, which was really awesome to see.
Yeah, and when we would, we'll get into this more, but we would walk around and be like, with the bag of compost, oh, how many handfuls of compost would they need? And they'd be like, oh, we need 5. They just really they really enjoyed having like responsibility almost over what goes into it, and being in charge of it. So that was really fun to see.
Exactly. So we kind of just talked them through what was going to be going into them and then how we were going to make them. But again, this was all reprinted on the little sheets. And then we kind of wanted to leave them with other ways that they could get involved in their community. So I think one of the main things that we wanted them to take away from this was making seed spheres and taking away the importance of native plants, specifically in the area, but also that by making seed spheres and by planting native plants, they are making a difference in their community.
And we just know how overwhelming it can be, especially as a young student, to try to think this is just this huge problem. So we just shouted out some other ways that they could get involved in their communities, which they seem to really engage with because they really want to help, especially at this age. They really feel strongly about this. So we were talking about how, well, first of all, they can go plant the seed spheres that we made.
Or make more.
And made more,
Make them with friends, maybe in other classes, and then spread it.
And they can support more green areas in their community, maybe plant a garden. They could advocate for change, just reach out to people they know.
Talk to their parents about who they're voting for, which is something.
Yeah, and they can also just spread awareness, teach other people, and
kids in other classes.
Yeah, just spread the knowledge that they learned today and in their science classes.
Exactly. So that's just the last thing we wanted to leave them with as part of the presentation before we really moved on to the activity. And then this was just the last part. This was the final slide to take action today. Exactly. And so this kind of moves on to our reflection and how everything went. So that was the end of the presentation that we showed to the kids. So now this is more just going to be us talking about what went well, our reflection, and the impact that we ended up having.
Yeah. So after that, we went down and we started making the seed spheres, and I feel like that was a really good experience.
Yeah, so here this is just me in the classroom, and then again, just giving the presentation.
Handing out some candy.
Yeah, and then, you can see that there. And then this is us. These are some of the kids, and I was passing around the seeds, and so the kids would grab a handful of seeds and put that into their mix. For the compost, we did it that they went up and grabbed it themselves, but then for the clay, because the bag was really small and there were so many, we just passed it around and then had them grab their own thing, which I think worked really well. It created it in a super organized system, so that was awesome.
Yeah, everyone was in there. We had 6 groups of about 3 or 4 kids, and me and Matilda would just walk around carrying the bags, and they'd tell us they knew what they needed because they had the sheets, and they would be mixing it, and they had a great time.
Yeah.
They really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think they had groups previously made, and they had their friends together, so that was really awesome because you could tell that they were just working with their friends and having a really fun time.
Yeah.
And then kind of moving on, this is just some photos of the kids making their seed spheres. So we couldn't take photos of any of the kids' faces, so we tried to just capture, what we could of the activity. So this was just their hands making the seed spheres and just putting them together.
They thought it was very fun to get their hands dirty.
Yeah.
They were constantly showing us how dirty their hands were, and it was just, it was very refreshing to see how much they enjoyed this activity and how engaged they were.
Yeah.
Because in high school, oftentimes people are just, it's just another class assignment, but they seem to really, really like doing this, mixing the dirt, and could not wait to go home and plant these seeds.
Exactly. So they were just so excited. And then here's just Allie. We also passed out water, and then they'd be they'd raise their hand, we need more water. And so because the water wasn't a measurable thing that goes into it, we just kind of played it by ear and then really let the kids be the judge of how much they wanted, which was really awesome because it gave them some autonomy over what was going into their mixture. Yeah,
they got to analyze their thing, and they would come up and be like, oh, we need more water. Oh, I think we have too much now. We're gonna need some more. I don't know. It was just really fun.
Yeah,
it's a fun experience.
I know. Yeah. And so then this is just a photo of me. We got a photo when we went in with my old 5th grade teacher, and then this was me when I was this was the last day of 5th grade, I think. So just kind of showing 8 years apart. Yeah, around 8 years apart, and just seeing, or 7 years, and looking at the difference. So that was just cute and something that we wanted to include in the presentation.
Yeah.
And then
you can show the email too.
Oh yeah. Oh, and then that was just the email from my teacher saying that they really enjoyed having us there. She was so sweet. She you could tell she was just happy that we came in to present to her kids.
Right. She was so supportive throughout the whole thing. Helped us manage the class, but also gave us the freedom to do whatever we wanted, pretty much.
Yeah. So, and then kind of the last slide is just our impact. So obviously this project, we want to take away something and have something to show moving forward on what we did. So this is obviously a lot of text, so I'll kind of try and summarize it a little bit and just sort of explain what this is all talking about. So this is basically just breaking down how many seeds are in each seed sphere, how many kids are in each class, and then kind of just totaling up how many kids we would be reaching and how many square feet of wildflowers that we planted around Seattle by doing our activity. So in class that day, there were 23 students, and as we calculated, each seed bomb contains 2.5 grams of seeds. So there are about 70 seeds per gram, so each seed ball contains 175 seeds in it. 1 square foot of land will require 70 seeds, so this is accounting for a 30% germination rate because not every seed is going to grow a wildflower. So we kind of have to take that into account with our calculations. And which means that each bomb is going to cover, or each seed sphere is going to cover 2.5 square feet of land, which means that each student was able to create 3 seed spheres, so each student was able to cover 7.5 square feet of land with the activity that we provided. So then we just did some simple math and did 2.5 square feet of land multiplied by the 3 seed spheres per student, and then again by the 23 students in the class to find out that in total we were able to plant 172.5 square feet of wildflowers around Seattle and directly reach 23 students.
And yeah, I feel like another big impact is that's obviously 23 students is small in the grand scheme of everything, but all of these students, they were very excited to learn this, and I know for a fact that they're going to go home and tell their families, their friends at recess that they got to plant these native seed bombs, these native seed spheres, and I really hope it inspires them to really take a bigger role in their community and help out, because it feels really good to be able to look at something, oh, I planted this. So we really hope we've inspired that in them.
Yeah, and overall it went way better than we thought. In our original predictions on how many square feet we were going to reach, we projected 150, so we ended up increasing that by 22.5 square feet than our original prediction. So that was really awesome to see. And yeah, besides from maybe splitting out the questions throughout the slides or throughout the presentation, everything went super well, and I don't feel like there was a lot of things that we could have done better. Like, I think we had an amazing time. I think the kids really enjoyed the activity.
Yeah, we got to engage a lot with the kids, which I thought was really fun. Have just a lot of conversations with them, like informally, and I thought that was really fun because they really enjoyed talking to me and Matilde, just how we're high schoolers and everything, and I just thought that was a great kind of community overlap.
Yes.
So yeah,
that was
a great experience.
Yes. So thank you.
Thank you.